Quick lessons from books: Losing My Cool, How a Father's Love and 1,500 Books Beat Hip Hop Culture by Thomas Chatterton Williams. Very rarely, never, I've never done this. I don't recommend books, even though basically these videos are book recommendations. And I think that you get this little quick lesson, you say, I want to read the rest. I want to learn more from this book. But I never do this, but I'm going to do this. Go buy this book. Thomas Chatterton Williams, no connection to him. I don't work for the corporate behemoth that is Amazon. But I'm telling you now, go read this book. It is a very well-written book, and it really captures someone who grew up in the 90s into the 2000s. He's in between the Millennial and Gen-X. He gets the urban culture. He gets the black culture. I don't know where else you're going to get this really. It's very raw at times, so maybe it's not for everybody, but it's a great, fascinating book. I'm just going to tell you one story from it, the pivotal moment in this book, which really every, I think, student or adolescent or anyone in their 20s should hear this pivotal moment. And when you hear it, you say, oh, this might be an interesting book I should read. I think you should check it out. So we'll talk about this. Chatterton Williams comes of age in the 90s, a teenager in the 90s, goes to college, I believe, in 2000. Fascinating. He's into hip-hop culture. Who wasn't into hip-hop culture? Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, you name it. So he's very much into that culture. Becomes all about that culture. Goes on to school at Georgetown, in which he spends most of his time his freshman year actually going to the HBCUs and hanging out and partying, and he does not spend any time with his college roommates, to the point that he doesn't even know the names. He doesn't even know the actual names of his college roommates, the people in his dorm room. He tries to disassociate himself with them so much that he doesn't know their names, and he simply just gives them nicknames because he doesn't want to be about them. He is more about the hip-hop culture and embracing that culture and that roots and that identity. And in this pivotal moment in the book, that identity crumbles away and fades away, and he realizes a whole nother world. So he doesn't hang out with anyone in his dorm, but one day he hangs out with the guy he calls Playboy, a foreign exchange student. He's not doing anything, and Playboy says, hey, let's go to the store. We'll go get some cheese and wine, and we'll go hang out in the public park. And so Playboy says, hey, I'll get the cheese, I get the wine, you get the baguette. Thomas Chatterton Williams says, sure, I got it. And so Thomas Chatterton Williams is walking through the grocery store, and then he realizes, I don't know what a baguette is. What's a baguette? Think about it. So he's straining his brain, and he thinks, oh, I got it. Baguette. It's like a little baggie. So he goes, gets bags, and he goes over to Playboy, and he brings it. Playboy's like, what is that? What do you have a bag? It's a baguette is bread. You don't know that it's bread, man. And he's kind of laughing at him. And in this moment, Chatterton Williams thinks to himself, what he could do is just lash out at Playboy, say, oh man, that's whack. And basically, and this is a defense mechanism to isolate himself from other cultures, from other embarrassments, and just dismiss everything that is not his own, that is not within his identity. But in this moment, he decides, you know what? I'm not going to criticize someone else. I'm not going to diminish or dismiss the baguette or this different bread or protect myself. I'm just going to be honest and admit, like, hey, I don't know what it is. Maybe it is kind of ridiculous. And he just goes with it. It's like, well, whatever, it's bread. But he has this is an epiphany. This is a pivotal moment, not just in the book, but in his life, a transformative moment. I think most of us have gone through a similar situation where we've realized the life that we're living or the patterns that we're following have boxed us in, and it's excluding us from an entire world. And that's what he realizes, that although he loves hip-hop culture, and hip-hop culture is amazing, hip-hop culture is holding him back. It's boxing him in. It's excluding him from a whole world of experiences, not just bread, and not just knowing what a different type of bread is called, but different experiences, different types of music, different types of fashion, different places, and more importantly, different types of people, because he's such trapped into his own culture. And this is nothing against hip-hop culture. This is anyone of any different culture or view or belief that gets locked into their own bubble and only identifies with that and just completely excludes and dismisses everything. And so they have the bread and the cheese, and it's awesome and it's amazing. And he realizes that there's so much out there in the world that he is denying himself. No one is denying Thomas Chatterton Williams these experiences. No one is preventing him from eating different bread and eating different cheeses and hanging out with his actual college dorm roommates and experiencing everything that Georgetown has to offer and experiencing everything that the world has to offer. He is putting those restrictions on himself. He grew up in a house where his father had stacked books from the floor to the ceiling, wall to wall. His home is covered in books. But never once did Thomas Chatterton Williams think about, maybe I should read those books. Maybe I should explore those books. Maybe I should find out all these different things, because he was so obsessed with his bubble and living this hip hop culture. And he has this realization that this is holding me back. I love hip hop culture. I love the music. I love the identity. But this identity, these rules that I am following, are not allowing me to experience these other cultures. They're not allowing me to experience these other views and other beliefs. And so he tells a story of he comes back from Georgetown College and he is hanging out with his friends, cruising around. He pops in, I believe it's jazz, I can't remember specifically. And the immediate reaction of his ex-girlfriend is, that's whack. And there's that moment where he realizes he can see in them what was himself. He could see that reaction, that restriction, that fear of embracing other cultures, that fear of embracing identities and ideas outside of their own. And he sees that they're not going to grow. They're not willing to admit that they may not know about other cultures. They may be ignorant to other views and other beliefs and other ideas. They will not tear down the wall that he tore down. And he knows that they're not going to grow. And if they're unwilling to grow, then he's going to grow without them. And he's going to grow apart from them. But he's willing to do it. He's willing to accept that because he knows that beyond hip hop culture, there are views, there are ideas, there are beliefs, there are writers, there's music, there's fashion, there's food, there's places, there's people to know outside of your own bailiwick. And it's not to say that hip hop culture is bad. Hip hop culture is fantastic. It's amazing. The music is to be embraced. But it's true that it was holding him back. Now, that may not be the case for you, but there are many different cultures or identities that we lock ourselves into. I love punk rock music. I only want to live punk rock music. I wanted to live the punk rock aesthetic and believe in the beliefs. And then I realized that this is boxing me in, this is trapping me in. I'm not experiencing different events. I'm not experiencing different people. I'm not going to different places and reading different books and listening to different music and really experiencing the full potential of life. And so we have to break out of these boxes. Specifically, Chatterton Williams gives you a story of a black male dealing with urban life, dealing with hip hop culture, and trying to break free of that and to experience the world and express his feelings and his emotions and his ideas and share his thoughts. It's a wonderful book that I highly recommend. And I think any teenager, any 20-year-old, and any 30-year-old, especially ones that have been growing up in the last 20 years, can identify with some of the themes and beliefs and events in this book. So again, I highly recommend that you read this book. It is not a long book. I will warn, because I think that this thing should be taught in schools. I really do. It's not necessarily a coming of age book, but it tells a great story. And I think it really absolutely could help with males being able to let down their guard and to express themselves, but also not build up these giant walls and structure ourselves into a singular identity and deny ideas outside of our own, deny views outside of our own, deny beliefs outside of our own. Now, I do have to caution, there's drugs, there's sex, there's violence. It's not a big part of the book, but it is in the book, and it is pretty raw at times. So that is more for the adult audience. Maybe a little censorship is necessary before this thing goes into schools, but I absolutely believe that seniors in high school should definitely consider this being a part of the curriculum. Absolutely should be in any of your creative English writing classes in college. Absolutely should be there. Please go check out this book. I appreciate it, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Like the channel, share videos from the channel, check out the other stuff, the American History 1 curriculum, the American History 2 curriculum, the Civics and Economics curriculum, the review games. Hopefully these things help. Hopefully I'm sharing some ideas with you. Once you buy the book, once you read the book and you want to thank me, just put it in the comments below. I am 100% sure that you're going to read the book, love the book. You may not agree always with Chatterton. There's parts in the book that I have trouble reading. It really can be pretty raw, but it is very interesting. It's very insightful. I really honestly feel like I understand myself a little bit better, but I really feel like I understand everyone else a little bit better as well, if I say that correctly. Like, subscribe, share. Do it now.